Welcome back to the Consult Centre podcast with me, your host, Ruth Wilkinson. Your podcast for all things in startup business, PR, digital, raising the awareness of your brand, featuring interviews with local and successful business owners, giving you the benefit of their help and advice. Enjoy the show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are we both?
Yeah, we're both very well, thank you. We've just had a lot of fun doing some videos, so this podcast comes straight after that, so that's fantastic. We've been giggling for the last hour, so I'm sure we've got lots more giggling to do.
You're on a roll.
We are.
Yeah, absolutely. So for people that may be either watching or listening to this, and they may not have seen either of you before or may not know about the Simple series, Shirley, would you like to tell us a little bit about the Simple series itself?
Yes, absolutely. No problem whatsoever. So Pamela and I have known each other for a number of years, both in business, and we've built up a friendship. And really, through the midst of lockdown, we got together. Simple Series was born out of the need for businesses to really look at how they could adapt in these difficult and challenging times, how they might bring in a new stream of income, and at the same time expand their business and expand their horizons.
So you've been delivering this then, Pamela. Obviously, because of lockdown, this has been a very much online project, hasn't it?
Well, it has. Both Shirley and I have been doing business mentoring and consulting in the past. And we got our heads together in the summer of this year thinking, right, how can we do something different? And what is there available to people when we're in lockdown? So we decided we'd launch in February 2021. However, we inspired each other so much that we actually got a cohort together and we developed our Biz Fast Track program, which has been so successful. We've got a group of 8 people on it. They're all loving it. They're all having lots of fun. We're at week 8 as we stand out of a 3-month program. And they are now asking, what's next? What are we doing next? They don't want to leave us, which is fantastic.
You've both got long careers in delivery and consultancy and management and coaching. How has it been for you as experience doing that, all online as opposed to obviously blended learning, which is some of the things you would have done before?
I guess the core difference with blended learning is that we would have done previously, and that opportunity to be present and be in a room with people is you're not getting fully the same experience. For us, it is very much about bringing a more holistic approach to it and being mindful of the situation that everybody's going through currently at the moment. So we bring a much more listening approach, a much more approach of empathy, being more aware of what their current situations is as well. So it makes it much more personal. And we're helping them also see the disparity between how most people tend to look at business being different from their personal lives and bringing it all together. So there are moments and times where we've got some of our lovely ladies have got a baby sitting on their lap, sitting and joining in part of the process. So again, we're just saying, no holds barred here. We run with it, and the importance about ease, grace, and flow, as I talk about. So let's not make anything difficult. It doesn't have to be challenging. If it is challenging, we need to stop and recognize why it's seemed as challenging, rather than moving forward with each step that they're running with their businesses.
So why were you inspired to do it?
I think both Shirley and I are givers. And we've had lots of experience in the past with businesses. I've run many businesses, grown them, successfully sold them. Shirley's been into private equity. And we both love the feeling of sharing and giving our knowledge. With the lockdown issues, I knew a few business owners that were struggling. And one thing that happens with business owners is that, and Ruth, you're a business owner yourself, it's tough at the top, it's lonely. So we've managed to get this cohort together, and they are connecting together as a group. And they'll now go through their life as friends and business owner friends, so they can share things together. Now, I've done that in the past when I've had businesses. I've connected with other networking kind of groups, and having my peers support me. I know how important that is to support other business owners en route. So that's why I think it's really important to have someone that's got some strength and guidance that can help you move forward.
I think the answer is going to be I'm always going to be the one that's being visionary, and I've always had a huge, having been in private equity and thinking about, for those that don't know private equity, if you think of Pretty Women, Richard Gere pulling all the businesses apart, That was the field and the arena I was in for, roughly speaking, about 18 years. So taking all that wealth of expertise and knowledge and bringing that to any entrepreneur that wants to create something. The importance for us as well was taking that visionary approach, in that not every single person who wants to build a business necessarily wants to build a tech startup. What people are now thinking, and what we're all seeing over this last year, is people want to be able to support themselves. They want to be able to support their families. They want to be able to support the communities. So what we're looking at is people that are coming at this from a very different approach, whether it's a social enterprise, whether it's supporting the community, or whether it's supporting their families. For us, that grander vision is knowing that we can't do it alone. And as we build our team ourselves, recognizing what else we can do nationally throughout the UK and potentially internationally to help people understand the tools of an entrepreneur, to have that entrepreneurial mindset, to be able to step in and say, okay, I can do this and I can do this differently, to understand the difference between limiting and limitless. So find where those limiting beliefs lie and step into a limitless life, but with, as I said earlier, that ease, grace, and flow, feeling at ease with what they're doing, enjoying what they're doing, bringing their passion to the table, and knowing that they can make a potential success out of it.
And you'll also be providing them, I would imagine, the ability to step back, even if they're in business right now and they're trying to maybe change their business, to step back and work on their business rather than in their business. So one of the things that is difficult for everybody currently is that every day is just another slog. And actually, we don't necessarily always tend to just have either the boundary or the discipline to step back and think, actually, what am I doing this for? Why am I doing this? And what's being seen as a result of that? I don't know whether you've experienced that with your cohorts.
Well, not only our cohort, but also our bespoke clients. Having somebody next to them to support them is so important. So having a mentor that they can just throw questions at us or ask for support, or just have that ease, as Shirley says, of love and support of growing the business, because they're all on their own. These challenging times are quite difficult, as we know, and they're not sure if they're doing things right. And they just need to bounce ideas off us, or they need that support, or they need that clarity. And that's why we're here. That's what we do. That's what we do at our best, is just supporting people in business.
As a quick example, yesterday we were catching up with a gentleman who owns business in the construction industry. And as you know, very, very, shall we say, lads-like community, and lads-like language is in part of that niche as well. And really, this individual has phenomenally built their business up over the last 5 years, and really looking at the next 2 to 5 years as to where they can go, and pushing those numbers through the roof. So, there's no reason why within the next year to 2 years that they're pushing that £1 million turnover. Spending 30 minutes with us, by the end of that session, that man walked away with so much more fire in his belly, so much more confidence, the understanding of what was possible and how he could do it, how he has to really look at his leadership team, and the emphasis around simple things as systemization, leadership, communication, all these things, and bringing all this knowledge to the table. What we're seeing more and more is, even some of our cohort, and they've said this, is, do you know what? Maybe I've been winging my business. Now I'm actually getting to understand the nature of business and what I can do more. When you have a young woman who's wanting to do a part-time business of 20 hours a week, and suddenly she can see, oh my goodness, can I really make 80,000 a year? We're like, absolutely. When we've gone through the sales target, the marketing plan, build her P&L out, and really looking at those numbers, people start to see the reality of, oh my God, I can do this. The fire, getting that fire and that passion back in their belly, again, is something that really inspires us. It's like we suddenly become very excited parents, I think is the word I want to say. And that makes it so much more fun as well, because as we see them grow week on week on week.
Well, then you're, I suppose that's just testament to the fact of how involved and invested you get in those people making the best of your expertise and skill during that cohort as well. So some people have noticed already when listening to this that you have a different accent than they're probably going to expect, Shirley. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and why we have a slight difference in that accent?
Okay, so some people might say I have a little bit of an Atlantic drawl of sorts. So for me, home originally is Northern Ireland. I'm a farmer's daughter. I believe I took inspiration from my father. Whilst he was a farmer, he was the first local farmer that actually went out and did a day job as well. So he was one of those people that was always just going to be creative and more mindful of what was needed when he was bringing up 5 kids. I was very fortunate and did grammar school, even though my mum said, "Don't worry about it, honey, you won't get there." So I didn't buy in. I didn't necessarily buy into that limiting belief. But I really didn't like it. What I loved was college, rolling up my sleeves and getting into the nitty-gritty of things. So for me, I realized quite quickly that business was somewhere where I wanted to be in that learning. London, popped into my arena at 21, got into the private equity world, loved that immensely, and just the opportunity to be around successful entrepreneurs, billionaires, millionaires, really brought home to me the importance of we are just human beings. So bringing that, what I call the HTH approach, to the table all the time, that human to human approach, no matter what you're doing, no matter how successful the business is. So that taught me a lot about how we deal with business differently. So my journey, obviously with the Atlantic twist, took me to America. I had the opportunity to publish my first book. My publisher was in the East Coast, but I decided California called me because I just love the concept of blue skies and sunshine and the outdoor lifestyle. As an avid hiker, for me, being able to get outdoors every day and that blue sky and sunshine was fantastic. So a few years there, building up my brand, building up my business there, before choosing to come back to the UK. And now I'm back in Northern Ireland. So depending who I'm speaking to, I have that ability to adapt my accent, but I do it unconsciously rather than consciously. So thank you for asking.
So you've been back and forth in the snow recently and seeing Dad, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. In fact, I actually popped down and spent some time with my dad yesterday. And whilst I was the one that was out, shall we say, with the galoshes on, the waterproofs and the woolly hat, not looking quite so glamorous, and off feeding his sheep, he was telling me off because it was too wet and I shouldn't be out, which was quite funny. But he's still, in my mind, he's still the amazing man in my life and still such an inspiration. And I think I've got so much to gain and learn from our parents, and if you've still got the opportunity to be with them, to spend that quality time with them. I love spending time with older people and also older business people that have got a wealth of knowledge to be able to share. And I think this is part of what Pamela and I want to be able to do, to share that gift of our knowledge and expertise, so that those entrepreneurs that come into our hubs and into our circles and are drawn to the nature of what we do understand that we are two very real people. We hold no bars. Yes, we can sometimes have a bit of a tough camp, but we're doing it with your interest at heart. And at the end of the day, we know that you have the ability to succeed. We've gone through various different failures ourselves. And I think those failures have taught us so much more about business and moving forward. And we see that as a simple stepping stone. We don't see it as a problem or a mechanism. Oh, well, I failed, so I can't do this. No, we pick ourselves back up and we get on with it and say, right, okay, what next? Wouldn't you agree, Pamela?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
So Pamela, where do we find you then? So you two ladies are working together. You're not necessarily located together. One of the things I suppose we can thank the online world for. So tell us a little bit about where we find you this morning. Whereabouts are you?
Right. Okay. Well, I'm in Chester. Well, I'm in North Wales, actually, on the border, in a village called Mancott. But the nearest town is Chester. So if you look at your map, you'll see where I am in the northwest. Now my stories are completely different to Shirley. I didn't have the luxury of college and of that sort of stuff. I left school at 16. But my entrepreneurial spirit started, well, I think I was born with it. I had paper rounds at the age of 10. I had people working my paper rounds for me, so I didn't have to do them. I was sorting out the money and ending up with money whilst they were doing all the hard slog. I then sorted out some babysitter rounds, which I did. And I was determined, I don't know why, but I was determined to leave home. And I managed to leave home. I was in London at 17. And my dream was to have a key to a business, a shop. I didn't care. I didn't know what it would be, but I wanted that key. Anyway, I ended up being, I went to London at 17. I went as a nanny. I was a glorified babysitter, really. But I got involved in alternative healing. And I ended up being the in-house masseuse for all the main hotels on Park Lane. I then decided, and I had a fantastic time. I was flying around the world, first class, private jets, all sorts of things happening, and seeing that there's lots and lots of money out there. I worked with some wonderful people, very famous people. And again, as Shirley said, people are people. We're all the same at the end of the day, whether we've got a penny or gazillions, it doesn't matter. And you just need to be kind and you need to be loving. Now, from then, I wanted, as I said, I had this key to this business I wanted to have. And I decided to set up a beauty salon. It changed from just a beauty salon to hair and beauty salons. And I ended up with 5 salons and 50 staff in the City of London, in and around the City of London. And I remember one day going to work with my key in my hand thinking, why was this my dream? Why? Why couldn't I find something else in this dream? But I very successfully ran hair and beauty salons for 20 years. I then unfortunately went through a divorce and that all had to change. I then set off to Gibraltar and started a sailing business in Gibraltar. I'm a big fan of sailing. Sailing Jollies, I was the founder of Sailing Jollies, which is still going very strong today. A friend of mine, Richard, runs that, now owns it and runs it. I came back to London, had a very serious car accident. I came back to North Wales to look after mum, had a very serious car accident, put me in intensive care. And that's the second time in my life, but that's another story. And I picked myself up and I thought, right, what do I love? I love business. I love people. I love making people, I love inspiring people, making them feel like they can achieve. Caught up with Shirley, and here we are. We've got the Simple series, and I'm so excited.
For those people that are watching or listening, what is the Simple series? Because there is a cohort, which we've discussed, but there is so much more to the Simple series, isn't there? And there's more to come as well into the future.
Our offering is not complex in any shape or form. Really, our emphasis was around creating a business model that has a low price point for those that actually want to have that access to that facility that they would not normally have access to. So people can join us through our fast track program, which actually we hadn't even planned to build in. So this suddenly became something else that we felt was a need to support many that wanted that opportunity of a fast track, especially given the scenario and situation over the last year. So people can join us through our groups. We're running a 6-month program for those that are advanced, that maybe are already in business, looking at how they expand, how they, don't particularly like the word, but how they pivot, or, in our opinion, we like to say it's about realigning their business, the importance of that. Then we are equally running masterminds. We will be running a 5-day retreat and the opportunity with those as well. But over and above those primary group processes, we're still giving businesses the opportunity to come along and talk to us about what their needs are and how they can be better supported with what they do. So That might be an online services, it might be bespoke services, it might be our advisory services. So we're not saying we're a one-stop shop, but what we are saying is we have the ability, either in-house or with our extended team, or with the array of our black book of business specialists that actually can help and support all our groups of people or our business clients as such per se. So if someone is trying to figure out, how do I build my business? What does that look like? What's the messaging? Is it correct? Am I building this for the right reasons? Our emphasis is to be aligned with people who have got that fire in their belly, who do want to build a brand and a business. But actually, I think the other thing I would say more importantly is that there are people that are doing this from a very heart-centered perspective and not an ego-centric place. We're not interested in working with people that are only interested in just making money. We are interested in working with people who have a passion, have a purpose, are thinking legacy, or thinking community, or thinking about their families and the extension of what that means to them. So that's quite key in making sure that the people are aligned with us and with our team and our vision and our mission. You know, we've set a high target, or I think I set the high target, and Pamela agreed to come along with me. And that is by 2030, we want to have inspired 1 million business people. And it's a big target, but that's our legacy. We see this business as our legacy. We see this as a phenomenal opportunity to do so much more. And we see equally there's opportunity to share more. So down the road, we'll probably run a podcast. Down the road, we'll probably write a series of different books. So again, there's going to be lots of different touch points where people can come along and join us, get their free advice, get free guidance, but at the same time, those that want to pay a little bit for it can do that too.
So you mentioned earlier on that you have published, and you've been a published author before. People may not know the title of the book, so do you want to tell us about that?
Wonderful little book called Pet 12 Words. So I am actually going to republish this again and add 2 more sections to it, interestingly. So it's a fun book, totally inspired. I was meant to be writing a business book and had been approached by a publisher. And I ended up going in an element of a few different journeys with different publishers and conversations, and being in the top 10 of a publishing competition to work with a particular publisher. So that was quite fun and engaging, but it still wasn't quite right. And again, as we said earlier on, one of the things I keep going back to, that sense of ease, grace, and flow, and paying attention to our intuition and knowing that what you're doing feels right, rather than, oh, I just need to do this, meant that actually what I did was I sat down, wrote the book, and then sat down one day and went, okay, maybe I need a publisher. And within 10 days, suddenly a publisher turned up. We had a conversation, communion. We liked the energy and the understanding of what they would do and how they would help me build a little bit more of the book and do the proofreading without taking too much out of the book. So it will help anybody that understands the challenges of going through change. How do we step into courage? How do we believe in ourselves? How do we ask for help? How do we step into trust? And then the last 3 chapters are really about love, happiness, and gratitude. And I think gratitude is the most underrated, most powerful gift that we could be using every single day, whether you start your day with it or whether you end your day with it. When you're more grateful for what you currently have, you will get more of that embodied in your life on a daily basis. So it was fun to write. It's still fun to read. From time to time, I find myself sitting down and going over a chapter and some of the exercises. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
And a moment to be very proud of, no doubt, as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because there's a commitment to writing a book. There is lots of people think, "Oh, I will write one." I think the reality of writing one is very different to the romantic idea of writing one. There's probably a bit more frustration and time to be had in the planning and production, isn't there? So it's a hell of an achievement, actually.
Thank you, really appreciate it.
What's next for the Simple series? So we've got a cohort that don't want to leave, Pamela.
That's right, yeah.
That you have schooled and guided and supported and mentored and coached for a number of weeks. So what's next for the Simple series?
Well, as Shirley said, we've got our 6-month programme available as well. So we're out looking for more people to come on the fast track, the Biz Fast Track programme, and our 6-month series. So they will be running constantly throughout the years. We've got our mastermind that we're working on at the moment. And then, of course, the retreats. So there's lots of things out there. And that's not including our bespoke clients that are business owners that just want us to go and mentor them on their own. And so there's lots to do. It's all exciting. We're happy to listen and speak to anybody that's out there that wants to share a story with us about their business, to see if we can help them, put them on track, guide them, whatever that may be. So we're here, just open doors for anybody that needs support.
And what's the best piece of feedback? You've had lots of feedback. I've been privy to some of that feedback and it's been incredible. Is there anything that stands out for you, Shirley, in terms of whether it's a particular comment or it's a general feeling of the energy or the community you've created?
I think the most valuable thing out of this that we're seeing right now is the fact that every single person in the cohort is simply coming back and saying, do you know what, I don't want to leave. What next? Or how else can we continue to work together? What does that look like? Or suddenly when they say, oh, can I really do that? Is that really possible? And understanding what it is that they can achieve. The biggest challenge most of these lovely, and in this particular instance, they're all ladies, are what we're seeing with them is the fact that so many people have bought into limiting beliefs. Yeah. And at some point in their life, someone told them they wouldn't be successful, or they wouldn't be anybody, or they couldn't achieve this, or what that is and what that looks like. Again, I think also this concept where people tend to tell people that, you need to be all in, you need to be 100% all in. You do need to be 100% all in. But if you are someone that's, say, for example, you've still got a day job and you're wanting to build your side hustle, or you're bridging the gap between two and trying to find out why that is. The importance about being an entrepreneur is you don't have to throw the towel in on full pelt. What you do need to do is you need to have built the business, you need to have built the brand, you need to get the engagement, you need to have the client base, you need to look at where you're getting the added support from. And this is where I think most people didn't understand the wider aspect of what business truly is. So they're simply looking at it from okay, I just need to sell my time. And it's money in and it's money out, rather than sitting down and looking at the overall picture and being able to identify something else. The opportunity, previous clients, as an example, hadn't fully appreciated that there was a great niche of passive income sitting in the business. It was like, you've got a black book of information here that could be packaged up, could be sold as a passive income product, and it'll make you money while you're sleeping. Why have you never done it? And it goes back to what you said earlier, Ruth, the number of people that spend so much time in the business, they're rolling up the sleeves, they're right in the business, they're in the thick of it, and they don't take that helicopter approach. Pam and I help them take that helicopter approach, help them step back. We think, we envisage, we look at, what about doing this differently or this differently, how that could be more supportive. Really recognizing the digital transformation of today, meaning how can you automate more of what you really don't need to be doing manually anymore? And how can you not just about delegating with the teams that you're working with when we're looking at the bigger businesses we're working with, or the bigger franchises, or the other businesses that are asking us to now come in and say, how can you teach our people more about business? So when they're building, for example, their franchise, that they can understand how to do that better. But recognizing that, again, that human to human aspect, insofar as actually the people that are in the ground, or the people that are actually doing the work, are the people that can actually tell the management what's needed. Mm-hmm. When you've got that communion going, rather than thinking it's just automatic delegation or it's them and us, mm-hmm. you suddenly see how you've got this cohesive approach that's brought into play, and actually the business starts to win more and more and more, because you've got that engagement of the team feeling more valued, more respected for what they're doing. Yeah. Management's actually listening to them rather than constantly delegating or dictating. And it's a beautiful win-win.
So one of the things I'm hearing from what you're both saying as well is that not just you are helping people to understand what their success areas are, but also understanding the efficiency of some of those, and therefore probably giving them back some very precious time that they can now reinvest in themselves, their families, their relationships. So as you said earlier, Shirley, that holistic approach is actually positively impacting more than just their business. Before we finish off, a couple of things that you would never do again in business. You have both had a long and successful career, but as we've said, we've had some adversity. Are there any things that you think, perhaps wouldn't try that again? Or things that you've observed and think, oh no, wouldn't definitely be doing that myself?
And the first thing I'd say is being alone. Don't be alone in business. I struggled when I first had my salons. When I first opened the first two, I opened two together, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending. And I was alone. I then got involved in a mentoring club, a hair and beauty mentoring club. And I've got 4 local friends that also had their own salons. And that was just magic for me. So we used to meet every month for dinner. And we'd be laughing and crying. I'd be one crying this month, and they'd all be saying, "Oh, well, don't do it like this, do it like this." And then next month, somebody else would come along and be crying and say, "Oh, I've had a terrible month." Da, da, da. Oh, thank God it's you this month and not me. Having your peers around you to support you is absolutely, it's just so important. It makes you stronger in your business. So doing it alone, I don't advise.
There's probably 2 things that spring to mind. And the first one is always relevant to doing your due diligence. You know, so many people in business get carried away with the sense and feel of, this is really great, this is working really well, this is stupendous, etc. And especially if you're looking at a partnership, or you're looking at investing a vast amount of money in a particular process or method, or going into business with another individual as such, per se. So one of those for me was supporting a doctor's practice in Harley Street, and actually investing in that, so putting my own cash into the process without having fully done my own due diligence, and actually lost a lot of money at that particular point in time in doing so. And I think on reflection, you know, what private equity taught me was always do your due diligence. But I got caught up in the experience. I loved the experience. I was enjoying the people I was working with, and I just didn't tick that one box. So the one thing I would always say to everybody is make sure you do your due diligence, and make sure you're making that decision correctly from your intuitive self, and you're not making a hasty decision from the mind. So making sure that the mind and heart are communicating better together. And the other one I would say is there's always going to be times in your life when you face immense challenges, whether they're personally or through business. And a very brief experience of mine was I was dealing with trolls. I ended up dealing with a dodgy virus getting into my computer, and the virus got into my computer, shut everything down. And at that particular point in time, I realized it was ransom software, and ransom software was well known to the FBI and the MI5, etc., and the British police, and they were trying to figure out how they could get this shut down at the time. And whilst it for me, it was really difficult because it wasn't even just so my book was on that computer. My family photos were on that computer. There was so much emotional attachment to what was on all of that, and how was I going to get that back? So basically they said I had to pay up or I wouldn't get access to my stuff again. So basically they had stopped me getting access to anything. So my tech team did everything that they did. We tried to figure out what was possible. We looked at backup system. For whatever reason, the last backup had failed. I mean, it was like a little catalog, a snowball of all these things all coming together and going, okay, what in heaven's name are we going to do, and how we're going to deal with that? And I did. I really sat with it. I really went with my gut feeling, which was, as much as I don't like to be in a position that I'm going to pay for this, I am going to pay for this in this occasion so I get my stuff back. And we did everything that we could to get it fully monitored. Given that it was a painful experience, because I went through stress, migraines, etc., I decided to write about it. So once you start writing, you realize you're always going to be a writer. So I wrote about it, and I'd been invited by Arianna Huffington to write in the Huffington Post. We'd met in passing at an event, and she said, "I'm loving what you're doing. This would be great. Come join us." So I thought, actually, let me write about it here. So I wrote about it there. I also wrote about it on my own personal blogs, etc. I had some press pick it up, and suddenly it was on the local paper in Northern Ireland. You know, my auntie's calling me up and going, "Haven't heard from you for a few weeks, but I see you're on the front page of the Telegraph." So, you know, it was, and again, then the same happened in the mainland in England at the time and throughout. And what was fascinating, so what was a really horrendous, negative experience of not knowing who got into my computer or why they cherry picked me, which actually was probably completely irrelevant. But what I was able to do was turn it into a beautiful and positive experience on the flip side. And what ended up happening was I ended up in a TV show, and we had a Scottish television production team said, we're doing a show on scammers. We'd love to film you. Is there somewhere you'd have in mind where you'd like to be? And I said, well, I'd rather be back home in my own home place, and I'm going to be in Northern Ireland, and I'll be back there. Here's the various dates. And they sent over a film team. They did a little bit of filming, and I got to share an element more of the story to help others understand. Don't put yourself through this situation. Pay attention to how you can deal with it. Be aware. So again, it was as simple as everything that you may think that's a negative in your life could have the ability to turn into a positive. It's how you look at it, and with what fresh pair of eyes you look at every single situation. So through Simple Series, Pamela and I are that amazing duo that's bringing two sets of eyes to every person's business, their arena, helping them reposition not just their business, but how they enjoy life more, how they embrace their family experience, what else they can do for the community, and of course, be more supportive to each other in the best possible way right now.
Super. Thank you both so much for taking the time to join me this morning. It has been a pleasure.
It's been our pleasure. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you.
Thanks for letting us share. It's been lovely.
Super. Thank you, Shirley. And I know that a lot of people will have got a great deal out of that. So for people who may want to follow up with you and they've listened to this podcast or they've watched the video, where would you like us to direct people to? Where's the best place for them to contact you both?
Our website, which is www.thesimpleseries.com. You can find us also on Facebook and Instagram if you just put in Simple Series.
Perfect. Thank you so much, ladies. It has been my pleasure.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, Ruth. Much appreciated.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to hear more from us in the future, why not subscribe on your favourite podcast platform? If you'd like to be featured in one of our podcast interviews, then why not contact us? You can search us across social media as The Consult Centre or contact us at hello@theconsultcentre.com. Bye for now.